r/AskReddit by Reddit. People who have had friends stab you in the back. What is the story? Years ago when I did a health sciences undergraduate degree, most of the cohort was determined to get into medical school. Our medical school program mainly accepted students from only our competitive undergraduate course, due to subject prerequisites. We all knew each other and were friendly, hanging out together, and forming study groups. Many of my friends were great. We shared tips, resources, practiced exams and interviews together. But there were a handful who really wanted to get into medical school, and since the program ranks applicants, mainly based on undergraduate results, the better your friends perform, the lower your ranking is for selection. So near application time, some of us would head off to the university library to borrow out textbooks to find chapters or page numbers that the lecturer mentioned would be on the exam, and they would be ripped out. You go and find another library copy of the textbook, and that page would be ripped out too. All of them, totally removed in a hurry. I didn't believe that someone from our cohort did it until interview practice began. Students began obtaining copies of the questions from previous years and lying when others asked if they had it. I saw someone give a terrible awful interview answer and the other student would give them glowing feedback and inform them they should say that, word for word, during the interview. It was a crap show, and a lot of relationships fell apart, or were never the same again. In the UK, I have heard of similar practices for pupillages, not sure if that's the right word, but trainee barristers. One girl got offered 2 places and was discussing with us which one to take, and her best friend left the room. Turned out she had called one of them pretending to be her friend, calling to decline a place and recommend herself. Fortunately they caught on, but sadly this was apparently common enough for them to be familiar with this kind of scam. In 2014 I woke up January 1st in horrible pain. I ended up needing an emergency surgery to remove my gallbladder. I was a single mom to 2 kids under 5 and had just moved back to my hometown after living out of state. We'd had to leave a really crappy living situation and had only been back about a month, and I had not found a job at that point. I had had a really close family friend who had been living with me before I had moved back, and he ended up homeless. So I bought him an $80 bus ticket and got him back to our hometown and let him stay with me a few days. He quickly found another place to stay, but we had invited him to my youngest son's 2nd birthday, which is the 6th of January. I was like 4 days out from surgery at this point and could barely make it down my stairs at this point, so he offered to go and pick up the pizza and cake for my son for me. We didn't have a huge party or anything. I was on food stamps and had cash assistance since my son's dad was not involved at all and did not pay child support. Even so, I offered for him to get himself a small pizza to take back to the girl he was staying with since her and her kids couldn't make it over. So party goes great. Everyone has a good time, especially both my kids. A few days later my grandma was going to go grocery shopping for me, so I go to get my card and realize it's not there. I never got it back from the guy, and I forgot he even had it, since I was all doped up on pain meds from surgery. I tried calling him like 5 times and he didn't answer, so I get onto my account online to check my balance and he took everything. I had like $600 in cash, paid my rent, and bought my kids the things they needed, and then I had like $750 in food stamps. All of it was gone. He let the girl he was staying with convince him to steal my money from me. I'd only use the money to buy the bus ticket and the pizza and cake for my son, since I'd been in the hospital for the first 4 days of the year and only home for 2 after that. It is still to this day the most intentionally ducked up thing anyone has ever done to me, mostly because it was such a huge duck you to my kids. Like who steals from a single mom recovering from a life-saving surgery on her kid's birthday? Especially after I helped him. Like holy crap. I'm late, but whatever. My best friend and I worked together for 3 years at a restaurant. I was the night manager and was really cool with all of the employees, but especially her. We hung out outside of work all the time. She went with me to the beach and carnivals with my kids, who adored her. She started dating this guy at work, who was slowly becoming a drug addict. I could see it. My crackhead aunt made it easy to spot, but no one else could. After he ducked up for the 10th time in a week and started nodding out at the sink, he was fired by my boss on a Saturday. The following Monday night, at closing time, he came in the back door wearing a ski mask. I was walking towards the front door to lock it when I was grabbed from behind and felt something cold against my neck. It took me a second to realize it was a knife. He said get me the money, but I couldn't move. I was literally paralyzed with fear. My brain was screaming at me to move towards the register, but my feet just wouldn't move. He screamed give me the money again, but I was frozen. He then dragged me to the register, made me open it, grabbed a fistful of 20s, and ran out the back. My best friend at the time this whole thing went down. Conveniently, in the bathroom. I was still in shock trying to explain to the police on the phone what had just happened. When I hung up the phone, she asked what had happened, and I told her I had just been robbed at Ducking Niffer Point. Her exact response was I hope no one thinks I had anything to do with this. What? So long story short, they find the guy. I told them I recognized his voice, and he rats her out on the setup. The setup was her texting him an all clear when only she and I were in the building. He didn't have to though. She quit the next day and stopped replying to my texts. When I found out I was heartbroken. This is someone who was around my kids regularly. I was diagnosed with extreme anxiety and PTSD after being robbed and still have flashbacks randomly. If someone comes up behind me and startles me I panic. The amount of money my life was worth to them? $440. The punishment they received. He got 2 years in jail, 50 years suspended, 1 year of probation. She got 1 year probation. I had to quit the job I had over a decade because I couldn't stand being in there anymore. TLDR, a year and a half ago, my best friend at the time set me up to be robbed at Niffer Point. Edit, move the TLDR to the bottom. Edit, thanks for my first award. And gold? You guys are too nice. This all starts out poorly by me following my boyfriend to the same college he went to. He was a year older. Still don't regret it after all as I loved my school and everything else around those 4 years. We were a bit off again. On again first semester I was there. Again. Red flags. My new across the hall mate in my dorm became my best friend. She and boyfriend didn't really like each other, but it wasn't a huge deal. Just a personality clash and she didn't like how he treated me with the on/off crap. Our school had a winter term in January. Boyfriend lived off campus, so he was there, and best friend was taking a class. I was home. Best friend was lonely and didn't know many other people on campus for winter term, so I told her to hang out with the boys in my boyfriend's frat house, whom she had friendly ish with. So they all start hanging out, and by that, of course I mean they start hooking up. I get back to school, and I immediately can tell things are weird with best friend. Unbeknownst to me at the time, boyfriend has had basically our entire relationship to practice covering his tracks, and is a smooth and practiced liar by this point. Within a couple weeks, it all comes out that they'd been hooking up, and best friend actually tells me you know how much I've wanted a boyfriend. If you were a good friend, you'd let me have him. Why I still wanted to date him at this point is beyond many people's comprehension, including mine, but it did involve a dog that I was beyond attached to. I do for them both equally, and did at the time too. I don't remember being mad at either of them as much as I was just devastated. He was apologetic from the start. She was mean and manipulative. Again, not trying to say it was the other woman's fault, just explaining how it all went down. It totally sucked, and I felt so betrayed by both of them. Unsurprisingly, I have had a lot of trust and loyalty issues since. I had a college roommate who had been a high school best friend. He was sometimes a duck, particularly when he was drunk. One night we had both been drinking. I'm not exactly sure what was said, but he left the room and apparently went and peed on my bed. He then left the room and went to a mutual friend's dorm. I went and washed my sheets and flipped my mattress over, then poured a bunch of water all over his bed and put a nice looking lump of peanut butter on his pillow. I couldn't bring myself to actually pee or poop on his stuff. Then, I went to our friend's place where folks were hanging out. He had this sly look on his face when I came in, and he made a comment about peeing on my bed. I told him that he was a dumbass for doing that and then leaving the dorm with his room unlocked. The look on his face flipped in a second and he ran out of there. I had locked my door, so I had a good laugh about it and brushed it off. When I went back to my room later, I discovered that he had gotten into my room. I later found out he had gone to an RA, told them he lived in my room and was locked out, and they unlocked my door for him and left him alone. WTF. He peed on my bed, again, peed on my cell phone, peed on my computer, and peed in a bottle of Adderall that I had a prescription for. Hundreds of dollars of damage. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that, while I was dealing with the fallout, he was hanging out with our mutual friends and a group of girls we were all friendly with. I don't know what he told them, but none of them would even speak to me afterward. They wouldn't even tell me why they weren't speaking to me. He decided that he was just going to ignore me and our mutual friend / roommate and pretend we didn't exist for the rest of the year. He poisoned my relationship with high school friends and new college friends, and after an evening in which he did the most vile crap I have ever experienced, and I couldn't even bring myself to pee on his bed. He has reached out to me over the 15 or so years since then. In big groups I can be polite, but this is the only person I have ever not been able to forgive. To rub salt in the wound, he is still friends with a girl I was crushing on at the time, and who I know had been attracted to me as well. She was a part of the group that never spoke to me again, and it has to be because of a lie he told her. Also, he continued to leverage the relationship he had developed with a relative of mine who was kind of a big deal at the university and in the town. My relative would tell us to get together and work things out, and I would say I can't do that and ask him to cut off contact. He thought we were just in a spat or something and kept trying to be a mediator, while continuing to help my friend and get him into programs at the school and jobs afterward. Stopping here because this is long, but obviously this has opened the wound for me. TLDR, former best friend peed on a bunch of my things, then managed to have an entire group of friends turn on me, ruining important friendships. Still don't know how that last part happened. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comment section below.